Hi Ultimate Gardeners, welcome back to the Ultimate Gardening channel. My name is Emmanuel Arce, well known to be the Ultimate Gardener. Come join me in becoming an Ultimate Gardener day by day. So in today's exciting sprouting video, I want to talk to you guys in detail on how to keep your plants safe from the frost. Not too long ago, about 2 days ago, every state in the United States has experienced drops in temperatures. Here in the state of Florida, we went from high 80s dropping down to the low 60s. And I know for a lot of people that's spring temperatures, but here for us, that's very low. And that's very unexpected for us, especially how we get cold usually towards the end of November. So a lot of our delicate plants could actually get frostbite, believe it or not. Some of our tender plants, our vegetables, a lot of our plants aren't acclimated toward those types of temperatures, so they could actually get frostbite and die back. And I know in other states they decline in temperatures way lower than 60 degrees like we did. So I want to talk to you guys about the precautions you should do on how to keep your perennials, shrubs, and fruit trees safe from the frost, because I know annuals we don't really care much about, especially if you live in an area where winter does exist, because annuals are seasonal. By the winter, every annual that you have in hand should die back unless you try to overwinter them inside the house or in a greenhouse like I have behind us. But I will only be focusing on perennials, shrubs, and fruit trees in this video, which are the main focus that a lot of gardeners want to keep safe during the winter seasons. So let's go ahead and talk about our first topic, which is fruit trees. So coming into our first topic is fruit trees. Fruit trees is a delicacy a lot of gardeners like to grow because of their amazing produce and how easy they are to grow. But unfortunately, in certain growing zones, certain fruit trees can't grow in the ground. So you need to do your research on the breed of tree you have and if it could grow in your actual growing zone. If it can't, I recommend growing those particular types of fruit trees in grow bags or in a container where it's a bit more manageable, where you're able to winterize it inside the house and bring it out during the spring seasons. Because the thing is, if it can't grow outside because it is way too cold, the thing will happen is that it will kill your plant due to how cold it is. So you want to move it inside the house where the temperature is a bit more acclimated and your fruit trees can stay a bit more happier. And then when the temperature starts rising up again, you can move them out. But if your fruit trees are a hardy fruit trees and you're able to grow them outside, keep them on the outside and they should do just fine. But I know there's also some precautions you should take on how to overwinterize it outside. But I see other videos of gardeners doing that. I don't know how to do that personally because here in South Florida, we don't get harsh winters. So I don't have to do that with my fruit trees. So once again, if you can't grow the fruit trees outside in the ground, grow them in containers and overwinterize them in a greenhouse like I have behind me or in the house you have. So coming on to our second topic is shrubs. Shrubs are beautiful flowering plants, whether it be hydrangeas, whether it be anything that comes in the shrub family. And if it's very, very hardy or very tender in your growing zone, the thing you could do is if you planted it in the ground, you could heavily mulch it with like 2 to 3 inches of very much thick, long clippings or leaf clippings. Doesn't matter what you use. You want to go ahead and build some type of like coziness to keep that plant warm. I know from the top it gets very cold, especially if snow drops from the sky. So you want to make sure your plant is cozy and it stays warm in that area so it doesn't get frostbitten. Or the thing you could do is dig it up during the winter and overwinterize it in the house or in the greenhouse. The greenhouse doesn't have to be heated. You can actually keep it in the greenhouse because the temperatures in the greenhouse are a bit more warmer than the temperatures outside. So if it's a tender shrub, you're able to overwinterize it in a greenhouse or inside the house as well. But if you have shrubs that are a bit more hardy in your growing season, you just have to prune them based on the plant you have. You have to prune them and keep them cut back and deadhead and take all the precautions you usually do when it comes to those shrubs. So that will keep your plants easy and ready to overwinter during the winter season. So now let's talk about perennials. Which is a bit more sensitive than shrubs. Shrubs are a bit more hardy. You can plant them out and they'll do just fine in your landscape. Perennials, on the other hand, require a bit more maintenance. If you're in a garden where there's a lot of perennials, there's a lot of things you should do when it comes to frost. Number one, they have to be cut back. All perennials will die back during the winter season, so you want to make sure they look decent. And if they grow on new wood, which all perennials grow on new wood, you need to cut them back so the big branches don't look ugly and it just causes a lot of problems in future date. So make sure the top one is to cut them back. Number two is if you live in an area like me and some plants actually do die back, like hardy hibiscus for us, you want to make sure they actually keep watered, especially if you're growing them in containers. Perennials in containers will die back for you guys, but you want to make sure that their soil is actually getting watered during the winter season, because although the soil might get to a point where it's solid hard because it's frozen, they still need a little bit of water so their roots do not get completely frozen off, and the soil will stay a little bit more warmer than the outside temperatures. So watering your plants is key. Coming at number 3, which is something you don't hear a lot, is before your first frost date, you want to fertilize your perennials and any plant in general. That will help your plants accumulate energy in their root systems, and when it comes to the next following up spring, where they're coming up and breaking dormancy, they will come back with a blast. They'll come back with vengeance, and they'll come big and beautiful blooms. So that's what I usually do before my first frost date. I know that sounds very weird when it says it comes to Florida, but we do have a frost date later on in the growing season, so we do have to take these precautions as well, although it's a bit more adjusted because we don't have temperatures that drop to freezing point. So fertilizing is something you should keep in mind before your first frost date. We're talking about 1 to 2 to 3 months even prior to that. So I gave you guys the basic tips you need to learn on how to keep your plants safe from the frost. Annuals were completely excluded from this video because they're annuals, they're seasonal. They will die eventually. But if you do want to try to overwinterize your annuals, which has happened before, the thing you can do is just put them in a pot with soil with good growing medium and keep them inside the house over the winter season, and they should overwinterize inside your house. This is usually done with like begonias and coleus and anything in that type of area because it's easier to overwinterize. So that's that. So thank you all so much for watching this video. May God bless you and your family, and never forget to grow big, Ultimate Gardeners. Bye guys.